As I indicated in the announcements, there are various things that we will be doing this summer, things that are often considered catch-up kinds of events, activities, things that we need to do because we can't do them any other time of the year. When I first came to Iona-Hope, I began here in mid-September, which was on the doorstep of season. I was counseled along the way that how season would be, and so I just learned to grab hold and hold on to the roller coaster and to make it through. And then as we would get to the end of season, it would seem like there was a bit of a drop, and we would begin to pick up and do a few things. The last couple of years have been a little different. Last year, because we were wrapping up the capital campaign and moving into some of the projects, and then this year, because we are now actively involved in the capital improvements and those sorts of things, as well as other things. So we move into a time of the year when normally I would see it as I can ease back a little bit. And so I blame that for the reason that I often don't take good care of my Fridays off. Throughout the week, I will have done so many things that by the time I get to Friday, I either catch up on preparing my homily, which I may even do into Saturday morning, which is a little risky given I do this on Saturday nights too. But I'll do various things and then try to isolate a little time. In other words, I don't take a good Sabbath. I don't do that. And I would like to blame that on you, and there are times I have, but quite frankly, it's not your fault. It's mine. It's mine because I don't place enough of a priority on that to do it. And apparently I think that it's so much more important that I be busy with various things and then let everyone know that I'm busy with various things, so you'll somehow be proud of me for doing that. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. But I don't think I'm alone. And I suspect there are folks in this room. I know in 2012, they did a study at UCLA of families in the area. And what they did was to go out and poll those families about their time together. And they found out some very important information. They found out that even when they're together, they're not together. Does that make sense? That they may have meals together or they may not. But even if they're having meals together, they're really not there together. And their time together is often spent thinking of other things, doing other things, and not focusing on themselves as a family. There was one particular case where they were doing a home visit and interviewing this family, and they took them through their house and showing them the various things they did in various places and the things they didn't do. And they went to the back door and they opened the back door and they said, "This is our backyard. We never go there." But the idea that somehow they had to be so busy all of the time, and in so doing, they weren't together. Well, you and I see it when we go out to a restaurant to eat, and we look over, and there's a couple or a family sitting at a table, and they're all texting, and you know that they're not texting each other. Somehow that just doesn't fit in the example. And the hard reality of it is that oftentimes we have to look up from our phones in order to see that. So I don't think I'm alone. I don't think that this thing of not claiming a valid Sabbath is anything that is unique to us or to me. I think it's something about our culture. I think it's something about our time, and maybe something about our being human. I've been in the conversation a couple of times in different groups this week talking about the old Sunday blue laws. You remember those? Well, you just showed your age. I've only heard about them. But and those were often nostalgic kinds of conversations. Because if you remember with the old blue laws, we couldn't do things on Sundays. We had to plan ahead. If you were going to drive somewhere or if you were low on gas, you had to get gas on Saturday. If you needed groceries for your Sunday dinner, you had to get them no later than Saturday. Last night after I delivered this homily, and I was next door, someone came up and said, "You didn't talk about liquor during those times." Said everybody in the room could have identified with that. But there were so many things that we could not do. They restricted us. But also, if you think about it, having those restrictions freed us up as well. They freed us up to say, I can't do these kinds of things today. I need to be present. I need to be here. I need to do this sort of stuff. The whole idea of Sabbath came about in the first story of creation when, after speaking the world into existence over 6 days, God said, I am going to rest. I'm going to take a day. So the idea of Sabbath came about there, but then in today's reading from Deuteronomy, the second reading of the 12 Commandments, the first is in Exodus. We have the reading today of how we are to have the Sabbath day and to make it holy. Now, if we think of it in terms of it restricting us, we don't understand what this meant to the Hebrew people. Because remember, they have just been set free from slavery, and they're out in the wilderness, and Moses has gone up on this big hill, and he's brought down these tablets, and on it are these commandments, and one of them is, the Sabbath day is a holy day, do no work. They had been slaves. They had been slaves. They didn't get a day off. And now God is saying to them, this is holy time. It's special time. Take your Sabbath. Take your Sabbath. Now, I'm not in any way in favor of reinstituting the Sunday blue laws. I agree with Jesus, where he said that the Sabbath was made for humankind, not humankind for the Sabbath. But I am in favor of us reclaiming this sacred time of Sabbath. And I'm not telling you which day to do it. I'm not sure when mine is anymore. But that it's an important part, it's a holy time for us, and that we need to claim it as such. I know that if you and I can claim these times of rest and respite, that they will have an effect on our physical being. That somehow not being compelled to have to be up and doing something that is more responsible than that, supposedly, will somehow give us some needed rest and make it easier for us to enter into the tasks of the next day. I know that it can have a wonderful effect on our mental status. To give ourselves permission to not have to think about those sorts of things that we find ourselves forced to think about, or that we force ourselves to think about, will allow us the distance, emotionally and mentally, to find some rest. But I also think that it is a good thing for us spiritually to enter into this sacred and holy time. Now, maybe you think I'm talking about just our work when I talk about this. I'm talking about those things that compel us every day that we have to do things. And perhaps that little voice within us and that loud voice in our culture that says, if you're not busy, you're not valuable. And I think those voices are wrong. But there's also this thing of living out the gospel. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that I can't take a day off because there's too much work to be done for God. Guilty. But I'm going to tell you a secret. The work is not going to get finished in your lifetime. Maybe in mine, but it's not going to get finished in our lifetime. And to use God as an excuse to not enter into sacred time, well, that's just sinful. So I want to invite us now to find a way within our own lives to enter into this holy place, this holy time, this sacred period of time called Sabbath. That as we do so, we can hope and dream and do all of those things that we need to do that replenish us physically, mentally, and spiritually. So that as we emerge from it, we can do God's work and be God's presence in this world with renewed hope, with renewed strength, and with renewed energy. Humankind was not made for the Sabbath. The Sabbath was made for humankind. Amen.